Finally tonight, the threat to Africa's elephants reaching crisis proportions. The world is taking notice, and this coming weekend, an international march for elephants will be held in cities in the U.S. and around the globe, including in Kenya, where Jeff Brown recently visited and had a close-up look at the situation.
The African elephant. It's the largest land animal on Earth. Weighing up to 7 tons, these behemoths move more gracefully and sometimes faster than seems possible. When you're up close, it can take your breath away. And yet today, they're among the most threatened animals. There's perhaps no better place in the world to see elephants in the wild than here at Amboseli National Park in Kenya, under the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. But there's a massive slaughter of elephants going on throughout Africa now, and there are great fears that scenes like this might be impossible in the not-so-distant future.
The poaching situation of elephants in Africa is actually at crisis levels. We're losing 100,000 elephants in 3 years. At this rate, most of our wild elephants will be gone within 10 years.
Paula Kahumbu of the group Wildlife Direct is referring to scenes like this. Horrific, gruesome, and all too common. Elephants killed for their magnificent ivory tusks. Elephants need their tusks for fighting, feeding, and playing. But to poachers, the tusks mean big money. Despite the 1989 international ban on the trade of African elephant ivory, demand for tusks has grown, especially in China, where ivory carvings have long been prized, and new wealth has pushed the price per pound to historic highs. Poachers can make more than a year's salary by killing one elephant. And experts say today they are organized and well-armed, with clear connections to cartels, militias, even terrorist groups.
He's a victim of ivory poaching.
Here's one casualty: orphaned elephants, aged 2 months to 3 years, from all over Kenya, given shelter at the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Nairobi National Park. Edward Lusici has been caring for them for more than a decade.
We see their mood, we see their emotions when they come in.
You do?
Most of them are sad, they're stressed.
How can you tell?
You can tell because they don't want to associate with you or with us. They don't want to feed from us, they don't want to play with us. They're most of the time like looking down, like crying, like mourning.
Yeah.
And you can tell that is a mood of sadness.
It's amazing to walk among them like a group of young children jostling one another and you. Older ones caring for the babies, their trunks and keen sense of smell used to identify a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
In Amboseli National Park, we learned more about the elephants' complex and highly developed family and social lives, and about their communication skills. Their ability, for example, to sense danger. Using one of more than 70 different sounds, they can warn friends and family of potential threats or just say hello. Katito Sayalel is Deputy Director of Research at the Amboseli Trust for Elephants.
Elaine, that's Elaine.
You look at those marks very carefully.
Based near the swamplands of the national park, where elephants eat, drink, and escape the dry, dusty salt plains.
We have 62 family units.
Sayalel says she knows every one of the park's 1,500 elephants.
And we know all of them individually by names.
Not just by name, but also by date of birth, family history, and even personality. And the elephants know her so well, they don't mind when she drives her Land Rover into the center of their herd.
He knows us, yeah, he knows the car.
That's the car.
The sound of her voice, scent of her shirt, all familiar to them. The founder of the trust, Cynthia Moss, sums up the research.
They're very complex, very highly intelligent. They have very large brains, very complex and convoluted brains, and they have a very rich social life.
But Moss adds,
they are smart, but they're not smart enough not to get killed by people with AK-47s. So.
And that's where these men come in. They're among the 300-plus rangers who patrol in and around the park, trained by Big Life, a private foundation dedicated to stopping the poaching of elephants and rhinos. It's a huge area, some 2 million acres, impossible to cover fully. and it's grueling work. Big Life rangers hike through thick, thorny bush, sometimes for days at a time, in search of threats and signs of the animals themselves.
Normally, the wounded elephant can go straight to the tree and scrub themselves where the injury is, so you can see the blood.
Oh, I see.
So once you come across with that incident, you have to follow that animal until we get it.
In a dense lava forest home to endangered rhinos hunted for their prized horns, Officer Joseph Makoki explained the dangers and difficulties of catching poachers before they strike.
They've got the binoculars, they've got the GPS, so they've got everything.
And they can come quickly.
They can
as soon as
quickly.
they know where an elephant or rhino
so
is.
To be easy for him to come down straight, hit the alley, and go out.
So you have to act really quickly too.
Yeah. So we have to be always ahead of them.
And Big Life has had an impact, making thousands of arrests in its 4-year existence.
That's a huge deterrent.
Co-founder Richard Bonham says they've worked hard to engage the locals, mostly members of the Maasai tribe, including using them as paid informants.
If you can get the community behind you who are living with these animals, if they're behind it, then that's 90% of the battle won. You're not fighting the community, they're fighting for you.
Does the word get out, do you think, or is it getting out?
Oh, it's instant. The bush telegraph works so fast.
The bush telegraph?
Yeah. You know, you make an arrest this morning, and by lunchtime, everybody in the whole area knows about it.
Still, it's a small success in a war that Bonham and others fear is being lost.
I think we're containing it. Well, we are containing it here. But when you put that against what's happening across the rest of the continent, you know, the situation's out of control.
Controversially, the agency charged with the task of protecting the elephants, the Kenya Wildlife Service, believes the situation is not that dire. Assistant Director Julius Chepty told us that the government takes this very seriously and is throwing resources into it.
This is a notion that people are saying that poaching is out of control. From Kenya Wildlife Service point of view, that is not the case.
Activist Paula Kahumbu scoffs at that and says the government is afraid of scaring off tourists.
At the moment, tourists are wondering whether it's safe to come to Kenya, in part because they're seeing photographs of dead elephants. It means there are people running around those protected areas with guns. It doesn't make you feel very secure.
If things are bad here, she and others say, they're even worse elsewhere in the continent, where war and other problems make it impossible to fight poaching. As the sun set on this day, at least, all seemed peaceful for the mighty beast living under Mount Kilimanjaro. The looming question, how much longer will it remain that way?